Let's be honest, jiu-jitsu is a long and hard road. If you have any desires to be a black belt or accomplish anything in jiu-jitsu, you better be ready for an 8 to 12 year journey. Through my time in jiu-jitsu, I have really kind of found that there are 3 pillars that I have to focus on upholding and not letting collapse that keep me on the mat training for longer. It was extremely important that I focused on these things before I became a black belt. It's my firm opinion that if you can't prevent these pillars from collapsing, you'll eventually quit and stop training jiu-jitsu. So in this video, we're going to talk about what these 3 pillars are. We're going to talk about how to prevent them from collapsing or crumbling, and maybe start to identify when that's going to happen and how we can start to fix it. If you haven't yet subscribed, make sure you do that right now. Also hit that like button and the bell icon. So that way you guys never miss the latest video whenever it comes out. It does help me get seen in the YouTube algorithm and helps me get seen to possibly more people who need jiu-jitsu help. Over my 13 years of teaching and training jiu-jitsu, as I look back on my journey, I've been able to kind of identify that there were really 3 pillars that kind of held up my jiu-jitsu in this way. I feel like if they would have crumbled at any time, or I wasn't able to repair them or fix them, I either would have quit jiu-jitsu, I would have got so frustrated that the whole building just would have fell on top of me, and then I wouldn't be here helping you guys out making these videos today. So these 3 main pillars are going to be broken down into a couple of different categories, but the first one is going to be having enough information and knowledge. The second one is understanding how to use your training partners wise and effectively. And then the last pillar, upholding your jiu-jitsu, is having a good accountability and support system that can keep you on the mat. So first, let's talk about the information and knowledge. Well, that's that's kind of the first pillar that we all start to build in our jiu-jitsu journey. If you look back, whenever you first started training jiu-jitsu, you had no knowledge, you had no information versus maybe what you had seen in the UFC or on YouTube. So you need to acquire enough information and knowledge to be able to withstand your jiu-jitsu journey, because no one likes losing or feeling like they're not progressing. You know, you want to be somewhat competitive in the gym and feel like you're actually acquiring this knowledge and turning it into skill over time. So having enough information and knowledge is extremely important throughout your journey, and you need to make sure it's being held up and it's being supported. Now, sometimes one way that this pillar can start to crumble and collapse is actually by acquiring too much information and knowledge. So if you acquire too much information and knowledge, it can feel overwhelming. You're not sure what to do next. And when that starts to happen, it can start to cause cracks in your pillar, and it might start to collapse, and you just might throw your hands up in the air and be like, what's the point? The opposite side could be said too. If you don't have enough information and knowledge, I feel like that one's not as big of a problem, because there's so much information out there with YouTube, instructional seminars that are being taught all over the place of information that you can be exposed to. At times, if you feel like there's maybe too much, it can start to cause that pillar to start to collapse and crumble. So my advice is to prevent that is understand where you're at in your journey and really only focus on what you need to be focusing on to make sure it doesn't fall apart on you. So if you guys are liking this kind of information right now, make sure you hit the like button down below. Also hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Leave me a comment. Which pillar do you think is the most important? Which one do you see collapsing? Have you had one collapse? Let me know down below. The next pillar is your training partners, or the different types of people you will train with. So the reason why this is so important is because in the first pillar of information and knowledge, the next part is turning that knowledge into skill. And you're going to do that with your training partners. Now, your training partners can come in a variety of sizes, shapes, ages, weights, strengths, all these different things that training partners can have value in. So you need to have a good amount of training partners at your disposal throughout your jiu-jitsu career. One of the ways that I think people start to let this pillar collapse is they don't understand how to use their training partners, especially maybe if you're a smaller individual and you're a white belt, you're not sure how to train with larger people, or if you're a larger person and you don't know how to train with smaller people, and maybe you feel bad and you don't want to crush people. It's about how well do you know how to use your training partners? How well do you implement strategies against different types of training partners? That's a big component in your jiu-jitsu. It does have benefit that if you can have various sizes of training partners, that does help, because if you're wanting to test the techniques out against different people for real life applications, You need to see what it's like against all different sizes and heights and weight. Having more training partners, but just understanding how to use them and having ones that you trust is extremely important for one of your pillars in your jiu-jitsu journey. And the last pillar is going to be accountability and support. This is usually going to fall on the role of your coach, possibly your training partners, because they could be your support system to text you and kind of give you some good guilt about showing up and training in class. Accountability and support, I think, is one of the most underrated or under talked about aspects for keeping students training for a long periods of time. Because the reality is, if you're wanting to become a black belt, that's going to be 8 to 12 years of you dedicating time. And you need someone who can help guide you along that path along the way. So if you're training jiu-jitsu and you don't have somebody who can help guide you, then it's a lonely road. You're also probably going to make a lot of pitfalls. You're probably going to make a lot of mistakes that could possibly kick you out of jiu-jitsu. Now, sometimes students maybe trust their coach one day, or they trust their accountability and support, and then some instance happens and they need to move on. That can happen sometimes, and that might be applicable. I've actually had to help students find a new school because their goals maybe weren't best aligned with what the school had to offer. Actually, me showing them support is by helping them find a new school or not making them feel bad about leaving. I personally think everyone should be training jiu-jitsu. And if there's a school out there that's different that can help you achieve what you want, that's not my school or where I train at, I absolutely want you to go there, because the more people that train jiu-jitsu, I think it's just kind of a better world as a whole, which I think probably if you're watching this channel, probably agree with that too. So having a good support system and having a good accountability system is very important to keep you on the mat. Now, at times, jiu-jitsu can be kind of a very self-deprecating culture. We like to make fun of each other, and we like to say, hey, you shouldn't be training here, or you shouldn't be doing that, or why'd your technique look lame, or man, you're going to suck now because you missed a day. Making sure if you are that upper belt or you are a person who is trying to keep people on the mat, just be careful about how you come off. You don't want to ruin somebody's career because you said something to them at some point. Having good accountability and support is important if you're wanting to be in jiu-jitsu for a long period of time. If you had to ask me which pillar that I would think is the most important, I'm going to give you the black belt answer that it kind of depends on which stage of your journey you're in. My personal opinion is the accountability and support. I 100% couldn't have got to my black belt or accomplished what I've accomplished in jiu-jitsu if I didn't have a coach that I trusted in my corner, if I didn't have the environment that I had at the academy that I trained at. I really enjoyed it. I like the types of training partners that I train with. I like the vibe that it puts out. All of those things became very important to me in my jiu-jitsu journey. I maybe even lacked a little bit on the knowledge and information side, but that's okay. I can make that up later as long as I'm staying on the mat. If you stay on the mat and you keep doing stuff long enough, you're eventually going to get exposed to new things. It's not about how fast you get there. It's about who's left. And that's a big problem that students, I think, have a hard time realizing, is it's not about how much you take in, how fast you take it in, how fast you excel, but who's left. And that's going to be the biggest component of your jiu-jitsu journey, is the accountability and the support from the people that you train with, keeping you on the mat so you can fix all those gaps later on. So if you guys are looking for further help, or maybe you're needing more accountability and support, this is what I do on a daily basis. I coach students online and in person. So if you're interested in working with me and you're wanting me to help you kind of guide you in that direction, maybe take you along that path from white to black belt and help you point out some pitfalls that you might be doing, make sure you guys fill out your application to work with me down below. I've just now started accepting newer students into my program, so make sure you guys do that right now. Thank you guys again for sticking around to the end of another video. If you haven't already, make sure you hit the like button, and make sure that you stick around and check out this next video right here, talking about how to use your training partners the most effectively. And until next time, I'll see you later.